Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. One of the big bills going through the Oregon legislature right now is SB 941, which deals with another level of gun control. And it seemed to have passed through the Oregon Senate with great speed, but when it got over to the Oregon House members are saying, whoa, slow down, let's take a look at this. And apparently today as we speak, there's going to be about 7 hours of testimony in committee about the pros and cons of this proposed piece of legislation. Coming up with us today is David Workman. He's senior editor of the Gun Magazine. Maybe you are a subscriber. You can go to thegunmagazine.com. It's published by the Second Amendment Foundation, which is saf.org. He's communications director for the Citizens Committee for Right to Keep and Bear Arms, and he's a former member of the NRA's Board of Directors and recognized expert on the various issues as it surrounds gun control, especially with the one in Washington state gun laws. There continues to be a great effort around the country to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights, and now Oregon, with SB 941 coming through the Senate with great speed, but gets into the House and slows down today. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as this piece of legislation goes before the committee and a schedule of 7 hours of testimony today. So David, nice to see you. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm getting by okay. I'm really looking forward to see what happens in Salem this morning with this hearing. As you noted, this is going to be an all-day and into the night activity. I've never seen anything quite like this before, and I think what it does is it reflects the angst and concern that gun owners have down in Oregon. They want to be heard.
No question about it. And I know that we're like 4 or 5 votes away from stopping this thing if we had some conservative and NRA Democrats that would stand up on this. This thing could get stopped. Have you looked into it? I mean, it seems to be pretty ridiculous.
Well, it is very reminiscent of what happened here in Washington State last year. As you probably know, there was an initiative here last year, I-594, that was passed. SB 941 appears to have a language that is very similar, with requirements that are very similar to 594. That initiative was heavily financed by Seattle area elitists. I know that Michael Bloomberg even kicked in quite a bit of money through Everytown for gun safety. What's happening in Oregon, they're trying the legislative approach first, and I think there's always the waiting in the hallway threat that if this doesn't pass, they're going to run an initiative down there too.
All right, so it revolves around if I have a gun and I want to sell it to a family member or friend, I guess we have to go down to a recognized dealer and do background checks. Does that really accomplish anything? I mean, in the sense, because now with the HIPAA laws the way they are, can you really determine whether or not this works or not?
No, I don't think that it's going to accomplish anything. But, well, then again, what it really wants to accomplish, I think, is to establish a backdoor registry of gun owners down in Oregon. If you have to do a background check and fill out paperwork every time that you transfer a firearm to somebody, sooner or later, and probably sooner than later, they're going to be able to capture all that information and establish what is a de facto gun registration system.
Okay, now I guess in Grant County, the sheriff up there was pretty vocal about this.
Yeah, Josephine County Sheriff too, and in Washington State, we've had several sheriffs who have either announced or have simply decided they're not going to enforce this new law that we've got up here. And of course, 594 right now is the subject of a federal civil rights lawsuit that was filed by the Second Amendment Foundation and several other groups last December.
All right, so if it passes, as you well know, David, Oregon is pretty much controlled by the Democrats now, big time. There's a good chance this thing's going to pass. Can counties opt out? Can counties refuse it?
Well, no, I think how this is going to have to work is that people are going to either file a lawsuit or work to unelect some of the people that supported this thing. It's a statewide measure, and because of the way this works, the only way to undo it is to get a friendly legislature in there and undo it, or file a lawsuit against it to overturn it.
So, for those who don't know the bits and pieces of it, what does this bill do?
Well, I think the big thrust is the background checks. This is really what this is all about. And I think it's pretty widely known now that background checks, the way that the authors of these particular measures have designed it, is to create a system of de facto registration, because there is going to be a record someplace of each one of these transfers, whether you have to fill out federal paperwork for a local gun dealer to do a background check, or whether they keep the information with Oregon State Police, or up here in Washington, we keep the information on handguns with the Department of Licensing. We've had a pistol registry up here for years, but since the passage of 594, their paperwork is backed up just enormously. And they are trying to catch up. I think they're about a year behind in Olympia trying to keep these records up to date.
So what is the penalty if I just gave my gun to my son?
Well, I think that there's an exemption for immediate family members, but there would be penalties if, say, you gave a gun to your neighbor, or let a buddy of yours borrow it for a hunting season or something, and something happened. Say he got in some kind of a criminal activity. He was charged with a crime, maybe charged with poaching or something. They're going to take that gun and they're going to wonder how he got it from you without a background check. Then you're in.
All right. Is this a trend across the country?
I think they're trying to establish a trend. They've got an initiative going on right now down in Nevada that is very, again, similar to what's happening in Oregon right now and what happened in Washington last year. So it occurs to me that they're trying to push this in several Western states in order to establish a record, a track record, to tell people in other states, hey, they passed it in the West where everybody's got guns. What's the matter with it? Nothing really, so let's pass it down here.
Wow. By the way, we read the other day where I guess the UN tried to pass a disarmament bill, and it failed in the Senate. I don't know if you kept track of that, but our two U.S. senators voted for it, but it did fail in the Senate, thank God.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington have a similar problem. We've got 4 senators who do not represent the interests of gun owners out here in the Pacific Northwest, and, they never have. I have asked in print several times, who speaks for gun owners out here? Well, nobody does, at least not in the United States Senate. We've got to go somewhere else to look for representation, either from somebody in Idaho or Montana. Now, that's not really fair, I don't think. They're supposed to represent all the people.
Wow. Well, David, thanks for the work you do. And people want to learn more about it several places. I guess they can go to gunmagazine.com.
Right.
They can go to SAF, which is the Second Amendment Foundation.org. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms is ccrkba.org. And I also write a daily column for Examiner.com.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, thanks for your work, and keep up the fight, my friend.
Well, I sure will, and thanks very much for having me.
Okay, you bet. All right, again, that's SB 941. You may want to be calling your House representatives today. Those hearings are starting today, and let them know your feelings about SB 941. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.